Hello, fellow homebrewers. JP here, and I want to introduce to you the brand new Brew-Built X1 Conical Series available at More Beer. More Beer sells the highest standard in homebrewing equipment, and the Brew-Built Conicals are just that. They're made from mirror-polished 304 stainless steel, and they come with loads of features that you and I have been looking for. They have a full 2-inch bottom dump valve, which will eliminate your clogging issues, while the sturdy base includes 4 reinforced legs, just like those big pro tanks do. More Beer also carries the Brew-Built line of options and add-ons like casters, pressure kits, and even external glycol chillers. So you can find out more about the new Brew-Built X1 Conical Unitanks by going over to morebeer.com for detailed videos on the entire line of Brew-Built Conicals. You can trust Brew-Built with your next fermentation, and you can trust More Beer to find the right conical for you. Brew-Built at morebeer.com.
Great beer is about drinkability. Doesn't matter the style.
You guys are like walking beer Wikipedia.
That's the first time that you've ever accepted me as a person.
Or you have a fermentation in your gut.
I'm jet propelled at all times.
How many guys do you think that you have the privilege to slap?
Somebody who's never tasted a commercial example, and this is how you know everything about this beer? Please, you don't.
I think that's bullshit.
I think it's bullshit too.
Wow. Are you guys going to arm wrestle?
No.
They're going to teabag fight.
Yeah. You heard of Junkyard Wars?
Can I get another high five, Beavis?
Now, live from the Brewing Network studios in Northern California, this is the radio program for home brewers, craft brewers, beer lovers, and beer geeks. It's your only source for live beer radio that brings expert brewers together with, well, expert drinkers. This is the radio program with a head on it. This is The Session.
Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you for joining The Session. We are here live in beautiful suburban Oakley, California from my bedroom. And I want everybody to know that because, I don't know, I like it out here. It's a nice day, and I'm feeling good today for the first time in a long time. But especially because I get to look at the shining face of Mr. Sean O'Sullivan from the 21st Amendment. Hi, Sean. How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going? I was actually at your house a few days ago. I saw the beautiful neighborhood of Oakley. It was wonderful.
The compound. Yeah, I was. Thank you very much. I was very pleased to see you. It was interesting. You're like the... Well, I mean, I've seen Bev, I think, like once maybe, but you're basically like the first work/friend person I've seen. I've seen like 3 people in a year, and you were one of them.
And
I think that's nice.
You didn't want me to leave either. You had a Pilates thing at 11 o'clock. Can I say that? Do you do Pilates? Is that going to be embarrassing you right now?
I do, man. No.
You're going to get your like street cred.
I do Pilates
and then you told
now.
me it wasn't until 5:30. You said, you want to come back inside and still play with me?
Well, I was a good boy. I didn't have to take a nap, and so my mom said it was fine.
Well, I'm glad Taryn told you that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good, man. It was good to see you. I appreciate you coming out.
It was good to see you.
You know, all that kind of fun stuff. So I appreciate you. And then, of course, our special guest today is Eric from Karrikin Spirits Company. I said that right, Eric?
Yeah, Karrikin.
Okay. Karrikin.
That's Karrikin.
Karrikin, okay. In Cincinnati, Ohio. And, you know, reading through your bio, Eric, I don't know if we have enough show to cover everything that you're doing. You're kind of like one of those smart people. So we're gonna dip in and out of certain projects that you guys are doing, that you're doing over there, and then you know, talking about some of the other stuff that you've done in the past, and you know, it's gonna be a good show. So anyway, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And you sent over some beer, you sent over some canned cocktails, and you sent over an agave spirit. So it's gonna be a good show tonight, everybody. I'm excited.
When he gets too smart, you and I will just look at each other, Jason, and be like, yeah, that totally.
Well,
let's try another beer.
I mean, I would have done it the same way. Like whatever the thing
last
is, right?
week.
Yeah.
Whatever the thing is, the thing you're thinking about.
I'm not too smart. I just like to drink beer.
Okay. Well, hey, that's good, man. Sometimes, the best ideas you have are trying to improve your beer drinking. So I was looking at, the bottle of agave spirit. I'm like, well, I don't know. I want to taste it, but my first instinct was to try to make a drink out of it. So I found a tiki drink that has tequila. So I'm going to substitute unaged tequila. Tequila Blanco is the white, right? The unaged, whatever. Anyway, so I'm going to substitute your Blaze spirit for that, and that'll be after the second break. I hope that's okay. I feel like I should have asked you first. Like, can I put this in a drink and whatever?
Hey, do what you want.
Yeah, do what I want, right? So, but I'll taste it too.
We make it so you can drink it.
There we go. Okay, good.
Wouldn't it be great if he just came down hard on you and said, "No, you can't do that. What are you doing?
That was sort of my fear, where he was just going to get like stone faced and be like, I'm sorry, you're going to do what?
You're doing what?
You're going to do.
Excuse me.
I gotta go, and then we would see the laptop close. That's all I would. But that's my flair for the dramatic. I was talking to Taryn the other night, and I was like, man, I think a lot of my anxiety, my problems in life come from watching too much TV, because every anxiety thing or every problem that I have, it's like this cinematic problem. Right? Like, for example, and I wasn't, just for the record, I wasn't really scared or nervous that you were going to be like a shithead about it, Eric, but it just would have been really funny. But in my mind, it has to be the most dramatic thing in the entire universe, and then that's slowly the reality. Or like, if I, if I had a health problem, I would just instantly just drop at the most dramatic moment, like saying goodnight to my child, or bullshit like that. My brain worms. And I think it's just from watching too much TV. That's the problem.
Maybe commercials and realize you have like the issues that they're talking about on those commercials.
I was born to be a screenwriter. That's all it is.
All right.
I don't know. All right. Well, let's get into the beer, Eric, or at least let's get into your story, man. So how did you start in the beer industry? Were you a home brewer first, or you just sort of had a love for beer?
Yeah, I went to the University of Utah, and I got my degree in anthropology and history, like most brewers do.
Right.
And, I graduated from the University of Utah, so I'm a Ute. But, my wife actually bought me my first homebrew kit. And,
all right.
I was homebrewing and with a bunch of friends. And Salt Lake City actually has at the time, had a really decent homebrew, thing going on in the early 2000s. And, there was like the classic homebrew shop. There was this Art's homebrewing supply where Art was like a really curmudgeon homebrewer. Like you'd walk in, what are you going to brew today? IPA, what malts are you going to use? What hops are you going to use? You're fucking it all up, Man. And then there's another homebrew shop in town, was the Beer Hive, that was more, sensitive. And but there was a really great homebrewing scene in Utah. And I just, I was doing anthropology, doing homebrewing, and graduated. And I realized I didn't want to go back to school for archaeology. And I was scouring Salt Lake City in 2004 for a brewing job. There wasn't anything available. And my wife and I moved up to Jackson Hole, and I found a really great job at Grand Teton Brewing. And I got to work with Bernie Van Order and also Rob Mullen, who was a really big mentor of mine at the time. And Rob Mullen actually came from the East Coast. He was worked with a lot of the guys at Old Dominion. Anybody remembers Old Dominion Amber Lager back in the day? That was one of the first, beers pushing it. And so I got to learn from Rob Mullen and kind of spread my wings from there, and went to Uinta Brewing Company, ran the cellars and lab there.
Oh, nice.
And the whole time I was kind of watching, this brewery called Oscar Blues and what they were doing with the cans, and really just kind of was drawn to that, and spent a lot of time at Oscar Blues after Uinta. And then eventually came back home to my hometown, Cincinnati. And really, I just wanted to bring what I knew about beer back to my hometown, and to be a part of like another beer surgence, as I guess I would say, in Cincinnati, where there was like a great brewing tradition at the time, a long time ago. Kind of got swallowed up by the big breweries, and then kind of was coming back. So I really wanted to bring my skills of craft back to Cincinnati. And, that's what really drove me back here to my hometown. So that's, I mean, there's a lot of other stories along the way, but that's kind of my little business card.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you like see kind of what was happening in Cincinnati? I mean, like Ryan Geist is like the 900-pound gorilla there and all that. And you were like, this is happening right now. This seems like a good opportunity. Or was it all kind of happening at the same time? Or how did you, I mean, what was it just, I want to go home?
No, pretty much. I mean, like I look at like where I was brewing and stuff in the West and even in the East in the mountains, and why did I end up back in Cincinnati? And I just love this town and the history, and I was really, like I said, compelled to bring my knowledge of beer and whatnot back to the city. It wasn't so much for me, but it was the tradition of brewing in Cincinnati. And I know that sounds crazy, but as an anthropology history guy, like for me, those roots are very important. And fortunately, I was able to be a part of a really cool brewing community, part of the resurgence in Cincinnati.
I mean, that does make a lot of sense, to be honest with you, going from like you said, your anthropology background, your love of history, to being a part of history. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's neat, man. So when you were homebrewing, just to back up a bit, what were you? I liked asking this question when I remember. I think it's very fascinating. What styles were you brewing when you were first learning how to beer, or first learning how to brew and brewing the beer that you were only going to like, that you didn't have any pressures of, do I have to sell this beer, or other people have to like this too, or whatever? Like, what were you sort of keying in on?
I fell in love with the joy of homebrewing, like many homebrewers did. The original volume, and AP, took something that was something to do at home and made it a worldwide phenomena. And I think that's really cool. But I drew a lot from that book, and just the simplicity of beer, and the idea that beer in itself has been made for so many years, and bringing it down to its basics. And obviously everybody jokes about Utah, but there's a lot of craft going on in Utah back in the early 2000s. And trying to brew, Utah beer, 3.2, 4%, whatever you want to call it. That was, a chip on our shoulders, and we really wanted to make good beer. And I think it challenges you, and even more so today, it challenges you what kind of beer you're going to make. So, what was the fucking question?
It was just how you're doing today.
Yeah, how's it going with you?
No, just about like styles of beer that you like to brew as a home brewer. But I mean, that's a fine answer too. It's it's sort of it sounds like it wasn't about style; it was about beer.
So, well, the first thing in home brewing is you figure out how to make hot water, not tip over your water tank, how not to flood your basement. I mean,
right.
Where am I going to put my mash when I start making bigger batches? You're kind of going on the commercial scale at home. I guess that's when you kind of tip the scales.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But
so I
like to brew initially at home was the basic styles. And then, there's this Sam Calagione book, Extreme Beers. And I started brewing the extreme beers in his book. And just kind of even going back further into history, and just New Holland, what John Haggerty was doing, looking at wheat wines, and just pushing the envelope.
That makes sense, man. That makes sense. So looking through your bio, it sounds like you got a lot of your experience at Oscar Blues. I mean, you were with them when they did multiple expansions and all that kind of stuff. What sort of influence did the way things worked at Oscar Blues sort of help you transition into opening your own place? And I know that seems like sort of an obvious question, but is it more about beer quality or production and making sure everything runs smoothly, or what were your big takes from? I mean, Oscar Blues is there's nothing to shake a stick at. They make some killer beer, and they were really instrumental in that arena of growing craft beer, especially in the cans and with Dale's Pale Ale and everything like that.
Yeah, I think what I learned a lot about Dale and Dale's Pale Ale was you take a unique concept and you refine it. When we started putting beer in a can, doing Dale's Pale Ale back in the day, the mantra was, you put beer in a can. That's the only reason it's popular. It wasn't about the beer. It wasn't about the flavor. It was
a novelty.
A chip on our shoulders, And,
yeah.
And there was meetings, right? Like, what's a gimmick, right? And there was a moment where we were all sitting there, and the conversation was, at some point, everybody else, like, right now we're looking in the front view, but at a certain point, everybody that's not with us will be in the rear view mirror. And it was a challenge to me, not only to make Dale's Pale Ale, put it in a can, but make it a very consistent product and put it in a can and prove that the can's not a gimmick, that it's about the product, it's about the liquid, it's about the consistency. So that, for me, that was a big driver for me at Oscar Blues, was the quality and the consistency part.
It sounds like you're proving that not only is the beer good and it's selling well because it's a good beer, but you can put good beer in cans and still have it taste good. And I think that's sort of like that's a big job to do, man. That's a big job to do. And I feel like
I would say so.
Yeah, I feel like you did it well, man. Because like I was, remembering a conversation years ago from when standing around the Falling Rock at like a GABF, and people were like, "Whoa, well, did you know Dale's Pale is in cans now?" And it was like the most fascinating thing to everybody that you can get good craft beer in a can. And then Sully came along and stole that thunder.
Yeah, I did. Actually, I did. I went out to Oscar Blues in 2005, I think, and I said, "Hey, I saw they were canning Dale's Pale Ale," and I was like, everybody's heard that story before, but I went back and told Nico, I got the greatest idea in the world. We're going to take our two most popular beers and put them in a can, and he was like, "That is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life." And so, and we built an empire on it. But I mean, it's definitely and what's great, and I think Eric could speak to this as well, is that, once, the early adoption occurs and you spend a lot more time talking about the can versus the liquid inside, because that's what it's so unique and so weird. But now I think probably, and I'm just going to throw a number out here, I'll make it up, but like 90% of all craft beer comes in a can now. It's like, it's completely the other way. So that's super exciting. I mean, you'd be hard pressed not to find any brewery in the country not putting their beer in a can right now. So,
right.
And which is why we have a can shortage.
Yeah, that's true. Which is why people are switching back to bottles.
No, that's LaCroix. That's LaCroix.
Yeah, man, they're swooping up all your cans.
It's about making like craft viable in a can. Like you think about the differentiation point early on in craft beer was that like small canning was not available to any manufacturer. So, to be able to start small, open that up and create an avenue. I mean, these can people wouldn't even talk to somebody 10 years, 20 years ago, at this point. So to make it a viable option to package, if you look at like the only way small breweries could package back in the day was to put stuff in a bottle. It wasn't because of it was made the product better. It was because of necessity. So like, the early beer bill of rights was only good craft beer comes in a bottle. Well, that's just, that's only because that's what's you could put in a bottle at the time. Right. There was no canning lines. You couldn't get a canning line as a small producer.
Yeah, and it's sort of weird when people draw that hard line with craft. It sort of reminds me of like the famous Stone like fizzy yellow beer thing. It's like I feel like when you do stuff like that and you really pigeonhole and then you sort of make it about quality, I don't think that really does a service to the industry, or the customers or anything like that. Like we should, it's a fluid thing. Whatever's in search of good beer, whatever makes the beer good, do that. But I guess you sort of have to
the whole thing with wine. Well, like I look at like with cans, like the bottles, the whole like pry top versus twist off debate that went on for years.
Yeah, they went back the other way though, because I mean, I think Sierra was leading the fight on that. Like they switched from pry to twist off, and Anchor followed suit out here on the West Coast, and then they realized, hey, maybe that's not such a good idea, and they went back to pry off.
I mean, I guess the question was like, well, Bud Light does it. I feel like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale could do it too, but they noticed the difference that I don't know.
They did. There was probably some tests, that they were running and evaluating it, and decided it was better for the beer if they went the other direction.
Yeah. Well, Eric, so you moved back to Cincinnati, your home city. right? And you're planning to open a brewery. Like you left. Where were you before you moved back home?
At Oscar Blues in North Carolina.
And at that point, did you know you were going to leave to open your own place, or did you go home first and then said, "Hey, what am I doing here? I'm knocking around Cincinnati. I could be part of this heritage out here."
Yeah, I wanted to get back home. As a craft brewer, starting out, everybody always, the dream is to open up your own thing, right? But there's several steps to get there. Sometimes you don't know how you get there.
There's just a few.
Yeah, there's a few. I being in love with the Cincinnati brewing tradition, I took a job with Greg at Christian Moorline, and so I was the VP of brewing at the Christian Moorline brew pub and the production facility. And with that, Christian Moorline also owned Hudipole, Shaneling, Burger, a lot of those old Cinci brands. And so I was responsible for bringing those back to Cincinnati at the time, and which again really resonated with me and with my homage, and being a part of bringing back some of those old school brands.
What kind of brands were you sort of reviving there?
Well, there was the old Christian Moorline brand, and that was like your Bock beer, Helles, traditional stuff. And then there was Hudipole, which Hudipole was one of the bigger macro breweries in the region, mainly Hudipole, Hudi Delight, and Hudipole 14K. And then I was also making Little Kings. Okay. Little Kings Killers, like 7-ounce bottles. Jeez. Those are all Cincy brands, and those are all the brands before Stroh's, and other brands started to come in to undercut the cities and take over the sponsorships for like the stadiums and whatnot. And, that's when you still have like a hometown beer. Yeah,
for sure. Did that sort of like scratch your anthropology itch there a little bit?
Yeah, totally. Even the brewery that we were producing with that had lagering tunnels below it. And in Cincinnati, we have a lot of lagering tunnels below the city. And those are all pre-prohibition lagering tunnels that were brought over here, and produced those beers either by like German immigrants, English, a lot of different people.
Yeah, I remember actually going back. I've been out to Cincinnati a few times, and if you want a great brewing tour of old brewing buildings, you got to definitely hit Eric up, because he's got a big brain about that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, Eric, are you in the tunnels? You're in the tunnels a lot, aren't you? Like, do people have to come and find you in the tunnels? Okay.
He lives in the tunnel. That's why the internet's not that great.
I am. Yeah, exactly. Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
No, it's really fascinating, and I love being a part of being back in Cincinnati. And my best friend runs the American Legacy tours, and they do all the tours downtown and underground. And to be able to help also like with looking at the tunnels and these old brewery drawings, and like actually like looking at how beer and liquid was moved around these facilities, and at the time, it's really cool because if you think about it back then, like brewing sites. It was a one-house shop. You brought in your malt from the countryside. You made your malt. You had brought in your water from an aquifer. You had your stables on site. Like you had a complete brewing facility within like 2 or 3 blocks of the city. Completely different world.
Yeah. So they bring the malt in. They were malt it on site and do all that, just whole entire process.
Right.
Damn. That's crazy, man.
It's like all under one roof, or a few roofs.
Yeah. Who else would do it?
Well, that's true. So. That's true, man. I mean, that's a really good point. So when you want to open your own spot, what kind of location are you looking for? I would imagine that you're trying to find like an old historic building and try to tie in, but but I don't know the realities of that. So when you're searching for a site, what are you looking for when you eventually find one?
Well, for me, with my background, it was all about production. So I was more or less looking for a site that could easily grow into a large production facility. And, granted, now we do craft brewing, but we're also a big craft distillery. And so for me, with my background, I was looking for a place that was out of the way. I could build a large production facility and also have a tap room, but that wasn't the main focus.
Okay, right. You're looking at expansion, and you had experience doing that before, or is that something you had to learn specifically for this?
Expansion, for me, starting in craft beer when I did, back in 2005, expansion was kind of just the name of the game starting then. And so every brewery that I've worked at, it's always been about expansion. Oscar Blues obviously was a big expansion project that spanned for me for 8 years of my life.
Jesus.
And, we always brought in the big stuff at the end of the year, whatever. But, Merry Christmas, Oscar Blues. But yeah.
Okay.
So, for me, with the consistency and manufacturing, that's what I really get into is the equipment, the manufacturing side, and the people side, and that make people feel bought into the quality and the consistency of your product. And so building Karrikin was all about that. It was, build the site, build the facility, bring the people.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense, man.
Build it right.
Hey,
yeah.
One question I've always had for you is where did the name come from?
Yeah. So there's elements in a forest fire that start to regenerate a forest after a fire, and those are called Karrikins. And so there's elements of smoke in the forest fire that actually start to tell the root structures to regenerate and when to reseed, and those are all Karrikins.
Wait, really?
So basically, burn it down, start anew.
That's pretty cool, man.
Wow, that's deep.
Literally. That's cool, man. Yeah, I mean that sort of fits in.
It's not like a place name, last name / place name.
Brewing company.
Yeah, whatever.
Right. Because you don't want to pigeon yourself into a location where it's specific. If you want to sell this far and wide, you don't want to have this name that's going to tie you to maybe. Though in some instances it works well, like Russian River or Alvarado Street, but you want to be able to go broad and far.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because in spirits it's a lot different because too you have Jack Daniel's Lynchburg, Tennessee all over the bottle. How in spirits, how proud do you want to be about where it's made? Is that a differentiation point versus beer?
Yeah.
I watched especially I watched the transition of that with Oscar Blues because when we moved to North Carolina, the big question was, what are we going to put on the can? Is it going to say made in the Rockies, made in North Carolina? And we were transparent about it. It was either Rocky Mountain made or, North Carolina made. And so those are those questions as you get to be a bigger company that maybe you never thought you were going to have to ask yourself, but you do, same with New Belgium. It always said Colorado, USA, Fat Tire, Colorado, USA. And then it slowly whittled down to something different. And I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just those are the things as you get to a bigger company, who are you talking to? What are you doing? What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if changing it though is sort of it feels to me like an admission maybe that like with the New Belgium thing, maybe people don't care as much, or you were wrong, or it's being shy about where you're from. I don't know. I mean, I guess what you're saying is there's a what's your brand identity is where you're from or the liquid in the package, and I think that always that wins out every time.
Well, in some ways, legally, you have to put where the location is, where it's physically brewed. Yeah. I mean, we had the same instance happen. We had our pub in San Francisco, which is still there at 563 Second Street, just 2 blocks from where Giants play baseball. And so we opened up a place in San Leandro, just across the bay, and we had that debate. It's what do we want to say? We want to say where our emotional home is, which is our spiritual home, which is San Francisco, or do we want to embrace, this move to San Leandro is, was a huge manufacturing area. They had Dodge plants there. They had our facility was a Kellogg's plant at one point, and just embrace it. And it was a really quick conversation for us. We just said, all right, we're people may not know where San Leandro is, but they're gonna, and you have to say it the right way. I like saying San Leandro.
You do, and
my friend's nuts.
And it's scratching my brain in the back where every time you say it, just as a Bay Area native, I can't with you, but that's fine.
I'm glad it's having an effect on you.
It really, it hurts me.
But I think that illustrates a good point. It illustrates a good point that was only how many, you're going over the bridge, let alone across the country. These are those doesn't matter how near or far you are, you still you're debating that,
Right.
Yeah, there's meetings that are taken up. Trying to figure it out.
Eric,
That's time you'll never get back in your life.
Right. Trying to figure all that out. Like at some point you just do it. Speaking of just doing it though, I want to drink a beer. I want to open a beer.
Yes.
I think it's time. It's time of the show as we talk about the new brewery and what you're doing over there. I'm going to go ahead and assume the Pils goes first.
That's what I have. Let's do it. I have it right here.
Let's do it.
All
right.
We're cracking it.
I'm just going to hold this up. I'm not going to drink it now.
This is for my my museum.
Sober March. Sober
right.
March.
Yeah.
Sober March.
So tell me about this Pils here, please, Eric.
Yeah. So we have a reverse osmosis system at our place, so we can take out most of the minerality. We like to add it back, so it's got a Pilsen water profile. It's heavy on the Czech Saaz hops, and a medium bitterness, lower than a German Pils. So it's like a hybrid between a Czech Pils, German Pils.
Yeah, for sure. I'm drinking that. It is such a clean, crisp, sweet Pils. This is very, I hate to say it, crushable. This is very, very slam it into my veins.
Are you from
it's
where
so
are you
good.
from right
I don't
now?
know.
You're not from Oakley.
God damn.
Crushable. I was going to make fun of a city, but I don't want to alienate anybody.
Do it.
No, it's super clean. It's really crisp. It's clean. It's
that sweetness on the end, it's sweet and then it just slams super crisp. With a little bit of hop on the back. So you have RO water and you build back, and we've talked about this a couple of times, and I want to ask you as someone who builds their water, when you target a water for a certain location, like you said, a German Pils, right? You target like a Germany. What do you target with your water?
Yeah,
regional?
It's a good question, because it's at Oscar Blues, with the water profile we had, your Rocky Mountain brew water. I mean, you don't mess with that. Here in Ohio, this is where you cross lines. You're I'm a truist, I'll take whatever water I get. But honestly, with the RO system, and to really be able to play with water profile, as we all know, water is a big part of making beer. I don't have access to the Rocky Mountain brew water, and it's just, you're able to do way more. I mean, it's just fun to play with water chemistry. That's something that I mess with a lot. But making a clean beer like this, I mean, to recreate a water profile from Pilsen, you can get that soft minerality to it.
Yeah,
it's got some minerality to it. I mean, it's definitely this beer is, you built this beer. It's really, I'm just curious, actually, getting back to the water thing, in an area where, and hopefully I'm not opening a can of worms here, so just say I'm not going to answer that if you don't want to. But I'm kidding. What's the water like there? I mean, you had all these breweries, that have you had all these breweries that have been there for years using the water. Something goes sideways there, and you have to.
I think it's a lot of hard water. It's all hard water here. Very hard water. It's not soft.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, and so what I'm getting at with the RO question is more of breweries today in Germany treat their water, I would imagine, for the most part. Do you sort of target what the beer should be with the water, or it's here's the region and it's untreated? Does that make sense? I don't know anything about water chemistry. I've done this show for 16 years and I'm still stupid. So you know what I mean? Are you building for what the target is for the beer, or are you building for a German water profile, or is it just sort of somewhere in between?
But yeah, so in Reinheitsgebot, in the German purity laws, if you guys are familiar.
Yeah,
I wrote them.
I wrote the book.
No, I was there when they were written.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, so you could
old joke.
So I asked this question about brewing in Reinheitsgebot in Germany. You can treat your water. you can do an RO treatment on your water. You can add back all the minerality, but you cannot make a pH adjustment. So for acidity,
okay,
you have to use So you have to use acidity. You have to, or like a lacto. They usually have like a lacto tank going.
Huh.
But
okay.
And then, but you can add back all the other minerality, but not to exceed the water profile of the city. So, they're treating their water, but they're like still using the same minerality class of the that city or township where they're in. So,
okay.
I mean, it's all relatively how many parts, like within like calcium, whatever you're like, when you're talking like really low water for Pilsner, like there's not that much to go on. It's a very low minerality profile, but
okay. I forget.
But you can actually filter the water. You just have to add back the minerality of the municipality. And so that's what we do. Like we look at the municipality water profile, and you can get that online.
Okay. All right. I see.
Like type in Munich.
Yeah, you can like in any of those brewing programs, you can actually, find exactly what the minerality is, the pH is, but you have to also take into account if you're using your own water. Like if you're not using, like when I was brewing in Southern California, when I was a home brewer back in the day, I would use distilled water. We'd have to add back all the time because the water that I was brewing with in Southern California was not very good.
I would never do that. Well, and just to, sorry
brew in Southern California
for putting a fine point on it, but it's a question that sort of has come up mainly because the last couple shows we've been talking about lagers, which has been the highlight of my life. It's a thing that we sort of mentioned also on the show about with home brewing is, if you're targeting a London water profile, well, the breweries in London treat their water, but I think what you just said is that, so German brewers treat their water, but they treat it back to what there's a range that they can operate in, and that's so they strip it, but they put it back to have cleaner water. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. And I don't know the difference between, focusing on a geolocation or focusing on a beer style. I guess they're the same. They're just the same thing. So it's sort of, I don't know. I'm trying to like put the pieces together in my head about why we do stuff in brewing.
Oh, it's about drinkability, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
and that's where water profile comes in.
And I can taste that in this beer. It is very, very crisp, but still leaves some residual sweetness on your palate. Still leaves that bitterness there. It's a very good Pilsner, and I love the label. It's very 60s.
Old school.
It's very old school. I really like it, man. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool. What style of beer do you guys brew the most over there?
I would say like our Pilsner.
Yes.
Like our lager beer.
God, man. I don't know what
yeast you use.
I like to use the Brewing Science Institute. David Bryant, he's a really good guy. Makes good yeast. And so I typically carry the Augustiner yeast.
Okay.
People say Augustiner can be a little more sulfuric, but I think that's also depends on how much you spooned your tanks or cap them and what you're releasing.
Mm-hmm.
But at least for Helles or like Pils, otherwise something more Northern German for like a really heavy bitter Pils.
Do you sponge your tank or whatever? Spooned?
Spooned? Yeah. I like to spoon the tank.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've been known to spoon. I'm a spooner. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been known to spoon.
Okay. All right. Well, Sully, let's crack up another beer, huh? And then we'll take a break.
Okay.
We actually have a lot to get through.
I don't have any beer, but I have this key lime sparkling spirit.
We're not there yet, I don't think.
Okay, whoa, slow down, Sully. That's all I heard.
Well, because basically, we're doing the beer, and then I want to talk about the spirits, and we're doing the spirits. I got to make a drink. It's a whole thing. I got a whole thing going.
Well, this would have come out in the pre-show meeting that we didn't have until we were on the air.
Eric,
we were all hanging out in the green room.
That's true. Well, yeah. Eric, should I do the Citra IPA or should I do the dark lager next?
I think let's do dark lager because I think the Citra will be way more hoppier afterwards.
That's what I think too. And I like dark lagers. So tell me a little bit about this beer, please. It's I think it's just called dark lager.
That's correct. It is called a dark lager.
There you go.
You're not saying it right. You have to say dark lager.
Dark lager. Dark lager. But no, my wife and I went to the this brew pub, Ufleku, in Czech.
Oh yeah.
And
do you really know
a
it?
A lot of brewers.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that?
I was asking Sean if he really knew it because it just.
Yeah, it's in Prague, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
and they make one beer.
I've judged with the brewmaster at GB World Beer Cup before.
Yeah, just what's his name? Name drop it. What's going?
I'm forgetting.
Prove
right
it.
I'm
yeah.
waiting for your story.
No, but my wife, when I went there, and I was like, they serve one beer only, and it's a dark lager. So I wanted to make one when I came back. I will admit this one's way too roasty, but it's still drinkable for their style. I couldn't nail it exactly right, but it's still a good lager, dark lager.
So when you were there, did you get the little shot of whatever that shot is they give you? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was it was like honey. Yeah, it was like something in this. There's like a guy playing an accordion, and he's like, "Drink my shit," But
yeah, they give you the dark lager, then they give you like this. I mean, it's sort of a lighter version in viscosity of like, I don't know, Jaeger or something. Or
yeah,
Fernet.
exactly.
Okay.
And you're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
With the dark lager.
And if you've been to Czech, like their currency is fucked. It's like 2,000, like coins to like your dollar. And so you're sitting at a beer, like at this beer garden, and the guy's like, yeah, it's like 8,000, fucking whatever. And you're like, yeah, I'm like sitting there like, fuck me.
Shitting yourself.
Like what? I can't do math. I'm like, and then you're trying to do like the thing like Americans aren't supposed to tip. We're supposed to tip. I don't know. Fucking what's 1,000 kroners? Fucking whatever.
You just tipped them a quarter.
I mean, at that point, I feel like you're so far away from the exchange, like where you change in your money, right? So there's like a separation, and I don't know because I don't leave my block, so I've never done this, but like I would imagine you like I'm buying fake money. No, this money no longer has U.S. dollar value, so I just give you whatever. Here's 1,000,000 krona. I don't know what that is, but it's just easier for me to do the math. That's what I feel like I would be like.
Jason, you've exchanged for the currency in Antioch. I know it's very different from the currency in Oakley, but I've seen you.
2 rocks for a dime bag is the trade out there.
Very well.
Yeah. This dark lager is very, very good. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was gonna. So
I used the Vitamin Special 2, and you're only supposed to use about like 10 or so %, and this one's like about 60%.
Well, geez,
so this one's actually like 60%. Yeah, 60% Special number 2 Vitamin.
60%.
Which it's pretty heavy.
Wow. And you know what? Honestly,
with the big calcium dose,
it doesn't taste like it. Like it's roasty, but it's not. If you had told me that before I would have tasted it, I would have assumed like, okay, here's this fucking like astringent, almost chalky like thing, and it's not that. It's a very light roast coming through. Maybe it's a little heavy for the style, but it's very light on top of everything else. I would never have guessed it's 60%, but that is a dark ass beer, man. Wow.
It is dark, even over the internet.
Yeah, it's pretty dark.
How does this beer sell? Because I feel like dark lagers maybe scare people away.
That's interesting. It doesn't sell really well. I'm just joking.
Okay. It's like shit. Now I don't either know what to do or fuck it, because some beers don't sell and maybe I'm just an asshole. I don't know, or both.
Yeah, there's like your passion projects, and then there's like everybody sells, but like no, it sells really well. It's fine.
I felt that way about Back in Black, our black IPA. I mean, it's a lovely beer. It's great, but it was only really selling in upstate New York and Atlanta, apparently. It's like being big in Japan for a while.
But that style is coming back. That style is coming back. Black IPA is becoming popular. I did see that
recently.
And
if you just wait long enough, it'll come right back.
It'll come right back. And we had a guy on Dr. Homebrew, which is Eric. It's our homebrew focused show. He sent in a beer to us to judge, and it was a clone of Sully's Back in Black. And it's like these things sort of like come around. Like, for example, I was reading in your pre-show notes, Eric, that you do a quad.
Uh-huh.
I hadn't heard of any brewery doing a quad in, I don't know, 5 years. But we had Halfway Crooks last week they sent a quad. You're talking about doing a quad. Quads are coming back. This pendulum swing is sort of going back into, late 90s, mid 2000s. It's very weird. It's a very weird time for beer styles, I think. Do you find that? Styles are weird? Or
I didn't know if that question was for Solly or me.
It's for anybody, man.
Look, that's the way we should have done this in the pre-show. You're always going to answer first, and I will try to jump in.
It's also hard because of the delay, and it's always easier to do this in studio, but obviously we can't we can't do that. But
no, so here's where I'm at with styles and shit like that. It's like today we released like this Amarillo by Morning IPA. Okay, it's got Amarillo hops.
Okay,
it's in the name. I brewed it like a weeded IPA. That was like basically the weeded IPA. Remember that shit back in like what was that like? Sully, how many years was weeded IPA like a thing?
It was probably like
6 years
early
ago?
2000, maybe.
Like
But yeah, it's come back and back again. So
for like a minute though, yeah.
Yeah, so I went in there with this fucker and like brewed it with a lager yeast. Threw a bunch of wheat in there, unmalted wheat, fucking flaked wheat, unmalted rye, whatever the fuck, like shit, and put it out there. Brewed with lager yeast. What are you gonna fucking call that?
Amarillo.
I mean, what like Amarillo by Morning.
Cold
That's what we
IPA.
call it. So I'm a big George Strait fan. So we called it Amarillo by fucking Morning.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you gonna call that? A wheat what? Wheat IPA? Wheat what? Like, what are you gonna call it?
Yeah. You got to put IPA on it to sell it, man. Yeah. If it's out here, you have to put IPA on it, or else it won't sell as well. It doesn't matter.
It was brewed with like 100% lager yeast, bottom fermenting yeast.
Isn't that cold IPA, Sully?
It is. You want me to talk about that again? But you're right though. I mean, beer styles are coming back. I mean, but one style. So we have a beer out here, regional beer, Death and Taxes by Moonlight Brewing. It's a black lager, and it's a very decent popular beer. It really sells well, and they've been making it forever. And so, like going back to what you were saying earlier, I think when styles go away, they always come back. I mean, right now, honestly, you're seeing, and I think this is actually about to happen. You'll see more of this. It seems more lagers are becoming more popular again. When you're seeing small little breweries that are, local breweries really leaning into that style. This sounds like I'm in a meeting with my, innovation group, but I mean, you're going to start seeing more and more of that. It's going to happen. And it's exciting for me. I mean, I think the beer doesn't appeal as much with like Instagram and all that, because I think the turbid, cloudy, hazy IPAs, they look great, in that regard. But I think you're going to start seeing a return to clear beer.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know what I think?
Hey man, I will run my platform on it.
You know what I think would be cool is to do the shots.
There's been a proclamation.
Yeah.
Proclamation decree.
Yeah.
I will drink a Pilsner from Karrikin.
That's right. I'm going to write this.
I am amending the 25th Amendment of dark beer, cloudy beer.
Yeah. I'm going to nail this fucking thing to the front door of the BA.
Be careful what you wish for.
I think it would be a cool like marketing thing would be is like take all these, these fancy Instagram photos that people do with a hazy IPA. It's like the fucked up weird glass shapes that aren't for aroma at all, they're just for fun. And instead of pouring your hazy beer in it, just pour like perfectly clear, beautiful beer through it, and just style it like that, like the pastel Instagram kind of thing. I kind
of want to go on and off the record here.
Well, you're being recorded, so I can edit out
people watching
whatever you want to say, but we are live on Instagram, so you're sort of on the record.
Okay, well, I was at a brewery a couple years ago, and we were talking about glitter beer, and the optics of glitter beer, all this stuff. The question came up: what does glitter beer look like on the other side?
Right.
Number one or number two? And then I said, is this where the fuck we're at with craft beer?
Well, the fact you're having the conversation,
where
the
we're
fact
at?
we have glitter beer.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
where how it's going to end out on the other side of your body.
Yeah,
This is craft beer.
I wonder if that's the first time any brewer has ever thought about a customer's poop. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry to say that, but like, this is where we're at with glitter beer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad glitter beer sort of like died off. And
I don't even think it's out anymore. I haven't seen anybody doing it recently. And I always saw people doing it like as a one-off or like a keg at a festival or something.
Yeah, because how are you going to package that? I mean, it was that sort of draft only.
You want to talk about like that turbidity settling out in a can. You're going to get a whole like layer of glitter at the bottom.
Yeah, for sure. You're not going to shake it. I'm going to pop this Citra IPA. We'll talk about that for a little bit. And then we're going to take our first break, which, can you believe it? We've only had one break. No breaks. We have no breaks.
No, we have no. What are you talking about?
We're just cruising.
We're an hour into this.
Tell me a little bit about your Citra IPA, please, Eric. Are you guys a big IPA house?
Yeah, I like to make coffee beer,
Okay.
But obviously this is Citra hops, and we use a lot of Simpson's Crystal Rye malt.
Crystal Rye malt.
Really? What does that look like?
I hope it held up in.
Wow.
That's like a light orange hue. First of all,
can you pour more in the glass, please, for us?
Again, classic. I should have clipped my fingernails. Look at that. That's gross.
Yeah, can you hold it back a little bit? Your nails are disgusting. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Well, they've been scratching at your back, so I can't.
Whoa.
That is a very. I feel like there's like I don't want to say a schism, because number one, I don't really know what that word means, but it's like a divide with IPAs where it's like, you got your West Coast IPAs, but you also have your like pre-2000, like late 90s, early 2000s IPAs with like Crystal Malt and whatever. And I feel like this falls into that category, but with like a progressive lean on the hopping schedule. Like it's a very bright citrus, almost like a candied orange peel thing from the Citra. And, I imagine, the malts that you use and whatever. But it is a different combination of that sort of older style, quote unquote, of IPA. And then, and then with like the new age. Is Citra still a new age hop? I don't know anymore, man. There's so many hops out.
Sure, why not?
That citrusy hop. I think it's cool, man. And I don't do IPAs.
So I think it's just
I don't like them, but this is very enjoyable.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's not your like light hazy. It's more of like a harken back kind of IPA.
Yeah,
a little more maltier than a Pliny. Still just as bright as some of those hops, but I really like the Simpson's Crystal malts and Simpson rye malt, and so I really like to I put a lot of some of that Simpson's Crystal rye malt in there.
About how much do you think?
Which gives us about 20%.
20% Simpson's Crystal rye, which I've never heard of, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, I haven't either. Do you ever use Golden Promise?
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
On the distillate side, on distillation.
Oh, okay.
No, actually, the first.
We're not allowed to talk about that yet, so we'll leave that.
So you're a sponsor. You can honestly, talk about whatever you want.
Peter Simpson and I met each other years ago with Oscar Blues, and we were going through malt suppliers for Crystal Malt, and we went off flavor and quality, and we did a bunch of blind tastings, and we landed on Simpson's Crystal Malt, and Peter was so happy about that because it was about quality, and we weren't looking at the money. It was really cool, and we landed some big contracts with Simpsons, and Peter Simpson led a good life as a humble maltster, but he's not with us anymore. And the first probably 10 barrels I filled were single malt Golden Promise malt from Simpsons. So
that's awesome.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for being in our life.
For sure, man. For sure. Yeah, this is it's an excellent beer. Is it dry hopped?
Yeah, with Citra.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Citra hop. Is it all just Citra? Is it just single hop at all, or what? Okay.
It's all the C's, CTZ on the dry hop. With our brewing system.
CTZ on the dry hop. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, we do a 60-minute boil. And we have an external calandria, so we do about a 60-minute boil. All of my bittering additions come in at 45 minutes into the boil, so that's usually where I like to drive the bittering, and then everything else is aromatic. And then depending on the whirlpool or addition into initial fermentation or after, kind of gets other stuff. But I don't, I'm more in the 45 to 30-minute boil IBU kind of philosophy than the 60-minute.
Mm-hmm. Are you
depending on the time?
Are you a cold or warm dry hop guy?
This would be good.
Well, it depends on what kind of dry hopping you want to do.
Okay.
So American brewers think they're always the first to shit, But in Germany, most dry hopping's done day of fermentation, and that, like, a lot of hazy brewers and stuff think that's where it's coming from. And then other people dry hop late. For me, it's about the what flavor profile are you trying to pull off hop? Because the clear, the liquid, you're putting the hops into different extractions and also different alcohols. And so until you really understand I guess for me, for dry hopping, until you really understand the liquid you're about to inoculate with that hop, it's kind of a black box. So you need to know what alcohols you have going into that dry hop, what aldehydes are you pulling, isobutyl alcohols, because that all plays an extraction into the hop, So
okay.
So know what liquid you have going into it, and then go from there, because that alcohol extraction and also chemical reactions can have a lot to do with your dry hop.
So why do you use CTZ as a dry hop? I mean, that's sort of unusual in a lot of ways. Is that tie into what you just said, or?
Oh no, bittering, the straight bittering.
Oh, I thought you said dry hop.
No, sorry, bittering.
Is that
right.
does that
what I'm hearing? What I'm
alleviate
hearing
your
is
fear, Sully?
No, what I'm hearing is that he thinks that U.S. brewers are very precious.
They are.
We are. We're very sensitive type.
We kind of are. We did this first.
Yeah. I'm the first one, because it's all marketing. Because if you're the first, you can say that in your marketing, and people believe it to a certain extent.
We were the first one to put beer in cans of the 21st Amendment. We did it first.
I've known that.
You heard it here.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna take a break. I wanna keep talking, but I gotta take a break. Hang on, everybody. It's The Session. We're hanging out with Eric from Karrikin Brewing and Distilling, and all sorts of stuff they got going on there. Cincinnati, Ohio is the place. Eric, Karrikin, that's all you need to know. Hang on. It's The Session. We'll be right back.
Segmented, demented, fermented.
It's The Session.
All right, thanks for hanging on, everybody. It's The Session. We're still here with Eric from Karrikin Spirits, and we're going to be talking about canned cocktails. Now, Eric, we've covered your brewing history for a little bit, but what got you into spirits besides the fact that they're just delicious? Did you have a sort of a love for that while you were homebrewing, or did you develop that as you were just progressing in your brewing education?
No, I think it's you're always looking for the next step, and whatever the next step is to express yourself. So spirits, and fermentation, and that was kind of the next step.
Nice. Did you work at a distillery before, or when you were building your current brewery, you're like, well, I might as well put a distillery here because I'm halfway there with the beer side, so I might as well just distill it all.
No, it's pretty wild. I mean, I just kind of dove right into it. Fortunately, I had some people along the way that, my friends, Brendan Coyle, who's at High West Distillery, and some other people, and was able to kind of lean on some people to build Karrikin. But the still that we built a Karrikin is a custom built still from Vendome out of Louisville, Kentucky. And fortunately, I just had some people along the way to help me out with the distilling world. But honestly, to start a good still, you need to have really good fermentation behind it, and that's where it really starts. And so you have to have a good liquor behind it before you actually can distill it.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I've always heard that fermentation doesn't matter so much in distilling because so you can blast off your mash at or your wash at 95 or it doesn't matter, who gives a shit, because it's all getting turned into alcohol. But the sort of more you learn about it, I don't feel like that's true. I feel like you do have to control your fermentation a little bit. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it all starts at fermentation, and aside from the raw materials you're pulling from the field, but it all starts with fermentation. The more you can control your fermentation, off fermentation, you have different alcohols being produced, different aromas, and those are all controlled by heat and, cell counts of the yeast and temperature control. That it all plays into the overall distillate. And then, consequently, when you're distilling those alcohols, depending on what alcohol is made in your fermentation, will end up in your overall distillate. So the alcohol you make is equal to the distillate you make.
Right. Okay. Do things like esters from fermentation and all that kind of stuff carry over as well, or is it just pure alcohol?
It is actually alcohol. It comes over, and
sure.
For the different percentages, who knows? But for instance, when you're pulling over methanol, that's the first thing you're pulling over, and distillate. That's smells like the worst hangover you had. And then afterwards, it's you get into some good cuts. And then, we do fractional distillation. So we'll pull our heads, hearts, and tails. Okay. And then we'll use our tails cuts. Essentially as you're distilling, you're, taking out alcohol out of solution, and you're left behind is more water. So as you get close to the end of the distillation run, you have more water. So you kind of get into that more wet dog flavor and aroma. So it depends on the distillate you're running, but
okay, wet dog.
Sometimes you might want more of that rough care.
So you capture it all and then use it somewhere in the process. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So we have 3 bins, our heads, hearts, and tails bins, and depends on what we're running. We might only use the hearts bins, or we'll run and blend other different stuff out. So for a high rye whiskey, we might run in some of our first runs of our high rye distillate into the hearts. Just depends. And that's where you get into the sensory aspect and also what alcohol you're pulling.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. When did you, I failed to ask, when did you open Karrikin? How long has it been?
It's been about 2.5 years, now at this point.
Okay, so you
December 18th.
You probably don't have
December 18th when we opened up.
December 18th. Okay, so you probably don't have a whiskey ready, but I'm imagining you have one aging.
Yeah. So right when we opened up, we started aging our product. We went to Bardstown, Kentucky. We found a Zach Cooperage, and we get. Right off the rip, we requested 2-year season staves, which means so when you pull wood to make for barrels,
nice.
How long you age it, depends on what you're gonna get out of the wood.
Okay.
So for us, down in Kentucky, we're able to get 2-year season staves. So which means they took these staves, middle of the cut Kentucky wood, and then laid it down for 2 years. So the longer you put wood like that in a yard, it takes more of the tannins out, that green wood, kind of real, harsh, tannin, like sucking on a dry tea bag kind of flavor.
Yeah.
And the longer you stick them, and then we, requested that, and then we put the number 4 char on the staves once those are ready, which is the alligator kind of scale they call. And then we did a number 2 char on the heads of the barrel. And then we laid those down for 2 years. And you know what? We have 2 years straight bourbon whiskey ready to go.
Damn.
And same with high rye.
Oh, my God. So I don't understand how you have the time to not only open a brand new brewery, but then figure out the char levels that you need, sourcing the barrels, putting a distillery in, learning about a whole aspect. It feels like you don't rest. You're just constantly
what's
moving.
going on there? I was going to ask that too. How did you learn about distilling?
You're like a character. You're like a character in Dungeons and Dragons, where you just take a short rest and you're recharged enough to do the thing later. Your action.
I don't know what you mean, but keep going.
I don't know, man. Well, for me, distillation's like the last step. You create this alcohol product. The next step's heating up to 178, 73 degrees, and then you run evaporate. So it's I don't know.
This is one of those things, man.
That doesn't mean it's sellable.
Yeah, it does. There doesn't have to be an answer to it. It's just it's interesting to me because I would assume that starting a brewery, with all the sort of things that you want in a location to expand and thinking about all that kind of stuff takes a lot of energy. But then you're basically doing it again with a distillery at the same time. And then figuring all the working parts for that, how to make good spirit in addition to the good beer and all that kind of stuff. It just seems like a lot of energy. So, I mean, kudos to you. That's a ton of work. And it sounds like it's about to pay off because you have some of these darker whiskeys these darker liquors coming online soon.
Yeah, totally. Like, we initially started with our clear spirits, but in this area, like everybody wants like dark spirits,
Mm-hmm.
Like in the Cincinnati, Kentucky, Tennessee area, everybody's interested in bourbon and high rye whiskey, which is cool, but we're ready to do it. I would say that everybody has their philosophy in distilling, and some people want to like bring in young spirit and blend it in with other spirits, but we're really proud in the fact that we're 2 years into our business. And we're ready to bring in our 2-year bourbon. For us, that was very important.
Yeah.
And to like actually like control our barrels, and to be able to say that, and like I said, everybody has their own philosophy. That's our philosophy.
Yeah. Are you going to do any rum ever?
Yeah. So we have a cachaça style
as a
rum,
matter of fact,
and it's actually yes, actually, but we have a 2-year rum aged in Alarosa sherry barrels. That's ready to go too.
And sherry barrels. Wow. Okay.
So,
thanks, man.
Yeah, it's like, like the aging thing is like, for me, like beer is so like immediate, but the barrel aging thing goes beyond your life. And that's where I wish I could just live longer. Because all those things we're putting down into barrels, they'll go for beyond our life, and that's the real blend.
Eric, you're a young man. Now settle down.
But isn't that the real master blend?
A good life.
I suppose you're right.
Well, Sully, I know you have one of these key lime sparkling spirits, so let's open this.
Yeah, I do.
And then we can drink this. So you're obviously doing cocktails and cans, Eric. How's that going for you? From a few people I've talked to that do this, it's hard to blend a cocktail in a can and have it ready to go. Was that a challenging thing for you guys?
I think it's more challenging on the sales front. Like nobody knows where to put it, and nobody knows like how to talk about it. Everybody can talk about seltzer, but nobody can say this was made with vodka or tequila or whatever.
When you say
so
when you say where to put it, you mean like physically on the shelf or like just when you're talking to the customer?
Yes.
Really? Huh. Okay.
Yeah. Where would you put like how would you differentiate a cocktail in a can?
Well, the key lime sparkling spirit, it's like, what is it? It's 4.75% alcohol.
Is it really? Oh my! So it's like a self.
It's with agave and natural flavors and carbonation. I mean, it smells amazing.
Eric, is seltzer a bad word? Is that a slur? I mean, you know what I mean? There's a lot of brewers who don't like doing seltzers. So if I call this a seltzer, would you hit me when you see me?
I think the word seltzer is a creative word. I think it's embrace it. The whole word sparkling spirit. We've tried this for 2 years, like trying to push that mantra. I'll just tell you internally, we're like, is that working? What do you say? Like, how do you express to the market we're bringing a agave distilled spirit and mixing it with real lemon and lime juice? Like, how do you express that? Is it seltzer? Is it, sparkling spirit? I'm just,
I appreciate,
here's my life.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you're open about that, because sort of what the show's about. It's really cool, and it gives people sort of a little peek behind the kimono, as Jim would say. But drinking it now, I guess it isn't a seltzer.
It's sweet. It has a sweetness to it.
has a sweetness to it. That lemon lime is very, very.
And you get the agave like aroma almost.
Yeah. So it's. I don't know. So what are you guys going to do? Are you going to call it a seltzer, or are you going to? I don't know. What are you going to do?
How are you making this, by the way?
Well, I mean, you guys didn't sign any waivers, did you?
No.
Well, no, I sign all the waivers all the time.
So we bring in the real lemon and lime juice, 100% without a concentrate, and then we bring in the agave syrup from Jalisco, Mexico. Then we actually blend down that syrup, and then we ferment it, distill it, and then blend it in with our lemon and lime juice. Voila!
And that's it.
How are you not like getting it to re-ferment? If you don't have to talk about that part, by the way.
Well, we have a couple kill steps.
Okay, I would call those stabilizing steps.
We're not going to get into semantics here, but yeah, we make sure it doesn't happen. We're not. The other interesting thing is like kombucha. Hard kombucha.
Yeah. No, it's really good. This is delicious.
Are you guys pivoting? Are you embracing hard kombucha?
You love that word.
I do. I've been trying not to say it, actually.
Yeah, you say it every day. Alice says it now on Instagram.
No, pivot. We've been talking about that on a couple of shows because I keep asking about how are you pivoting through COVID?
How are you pivoting during COVID?
We haven't even gotten through COVID yet, so might not even come up, which is sort of refreshing. I'll be honest. I mean, everyone's tired of talking to. But anyway. Are you going to be doing hard kombucha too? Because I feel like I've been seeing a lot more of that in the craft beer world now too.
We've been thinking about pivoting towards that, but we haven't.
All right.
No. I mean, so I'm friends with the guys at Bear Bottle, and I know Bear Bottle has been doing like a bunch of cool stuff out there, in the kombucha world. I love it. I think any expression of beverage is beautiful. So,
wow.
Whether it's hard, I think that the reality is with kombucha world, like you have to figure out how to make it like within its boundaries, because it won't. And that's saying with kind of pivoting to cannabis, like you have to stay within your boundaries.
Yeah.
Eric, you sound like you should be living in San Francisco.
Well, I was going to say, like,
you sound like a Cincinnati. Like, I think every expression of beverage. I mean, you sound like a guru that should be out here running like
just say it.
A camp somewhere or something.
There you go. Yeah, I was definitely going to say, like, you definitely spent time in Colorado with that with that attitude.
Well, I'm definitely like 100 pounds bigger than. I don't like pivot like I used to. Like,
oh, please.
See, here we go. Every talk about pivoting. I like it. You know what? And I'll be honest, man.
It's really good.
I appreciate the fact that it's under 5%. Not only am I like a big alcohol, like I want the lower alcohol with the full flavor, which is hard to do, like we were talking earlier. But I feel good that I could just sit here and just drink this can even during the show. I know we have a lot more to get to, but I like it. I think that is like an under 5% target. With a
really
beer,
good.
With a drink.
There's a lot of flavor there.
Yeah, that's really expressive and thirst quenching. It's delicious. I think it's really good.
Not fat.
Oh, well, shit. Okay, I'll tell you what. Since we're sort of running up, well, you know what? Fuck it. Citrus tonic. We're just going to talk about this one real fast. What's a citrus tonic?
Yeah, so citrus tonic is basically a tonic that so there's a company in Cincinnati called Hop Water, and the flavor company in town made a lot of hop water juices and extracts and all those kind of things, and we know the guy Tony that was a part of it, and we created this kind of this quinine hop solution. With it, we use hop bitters, hop smooth, lime to create this tonic flavor, and overlaid it with our gin.
Okay, so it's a gin and tonic, basically.
Yes, but with hop extracts.
With hop extracts, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what hops?
No, we can't.
That's like extremely proprietary.
Well, I'm going to run through the entire list of known hops, and you can tell me yes or no.
I'm going to drop this glass on the ground. You tell me when
I'm
to
gonna
stop.
I'm going to go warm, cold. No,
That's fine, man. That's fine.
It's there's like hop. There's like hop sharp and hop smooth, and other than that, we use a very botanical gin, cilantro, rosemary.
Okay, cilantro. I get that actually a little bit. I was trying to pick out the flavor before you said it, and it's very unique, and I don't know how to explain it, but I'll be honest. At first, I didn't care for it. And then you told me what it was, and the spices or botanicals or whatever, they're hops. And the more I sit with it, the more I can like figure out what it is. And it's a very, very unique beverage. I actually like it a lot more than I did. I think it's very creative, and it's unlike anything I've ever had from a cocktail before. It's very unique.
I appreciate that, and I think that like. I think it's like constantly challenging. I'm not saying like anybody's flavor portfolio, but it's constantly challenging what flavor you can put in a can.
Yeah. Like
it's not what you'd expect, and I think that's the first part about drinking anything out of a can like this is like, well, what am I drinking? And I think that after that there's like it's not drinkable, but there's that first like, what is this?
Right. Do you find that you have to change the recipe or the focus of what you want the spirit to be from glass to can? Like it doesn't translate well from the glass into the can?
I think it's such an expanding category. I don't think you can even like say what like your base point is at this point. There's so much experimentation going on in this category.
Okay. That's a good non-answer.
Well, no, you're leading the way too. I mean, clearly,
kidding,
you're mixing like different areas of the beverage industry and like trying to find the best thing you can do and put it in a can. It's amazing.
Yeah. So are these canned cocktails? I want to go back to that because I'm trying to categorize everything because not only am I a home brewer, but I'm a journalist or whatever, right? I want to call this a thing, but I know you have Sparkling Spirit on there, and we talked about it, briefly. This is the next one I'm going to open, the rum and coke. But I keep going back to what do I call this? I want to call it a canned cocktail.
That's a really fucking awesome question. No, it's what do you call it, right? It's like because it's what speaks to people. Like what is the correct marketing tool, or what does it really mean? And where do you put it? Because
I'm the wrong guy to do. I mean,
you're asking the same question we ask ourselves.
Yeah, like I do marketing for other stuff and whatever, but like I'm the worst person to market to because I fucking hate marketing. I can't stand it. I don't subscribe to any emails. I don't do anything, right? But with this, it's like canned cocktail. For me, that would be enough, right? But I realize I'm not in your market, right? You being in Ohio and I'm out here in California, so I don't know what regionally people would gravitate to, but these are under 5%. These are 4.75%.
Well, I know.
Rum and cola. I love it.
I was just, I was at a store today where I saw non-alc gin, and it was at Berkeley Bowl.
Non-alcoholic gin.
I've had a non-alc gin before on a plane, and it wasn't bad. I think this is a sparkling spirit cocktail. There's nothing wrong with saying it that way. I think when you say like, cocktail in a can, it's sort of implying like, well, we made this, in Manhattan and we just put it in a can. I mean, that's not what's going on here. It's very different. I think it's a fluid industry where people are more concerned, like you said, Jason, earlier, about like what kind of, how much alcohol am I consuming? You don't want to put like a 10%. You don't want to drink 10%. This is perfect. This tastes great for what it is. So it's a sparkling spirit in a can.
Oh, I think maybe sparkling cocktail, because to me, sparkling, it sort of lightens it up, right? It's a light word. It's a light imagery. Yeah. Automatically, maybe I'm going to coincide that with a lighter in alcohol. But I don't know, man. I don't know why, Eric, you do this to yourself and you drag me into it, where you sort of create these new things that nobody knows about, and now it's a thing that you have to figure out. And I think
it's also how you telegraph it.
Well, it's like
in the visuals and what it, and the label and the imagery and all this. That's what's really important as well. But I think what's happening is that this is such a new thing that you almost can define it the way you want to define it. Yeah. And you just have to get buy-in from your distributor so they know how to sell it, and also the retailer say, okay, this is what this is. And they get people on board. And also placement, like we talked about earlier, like where does it lay on the shelf? I mean, where is this going to sit? This should not probably sit in the beer space, but maybe he wants it to have it in the beer space because he has beer. He's already making beer with the name Karrikin. So, there's a lot of like questions, and I don't think it's as complicated, but it is.
I will say on that point, Sully, seeing rum and cola sparkling spirit would make me pick up the can to look at what the fuck that means. Yeah. And then I would read underneath, okay, it's rum and handcrafted cola. Okay, I can dig on that. There's the alcohol there. Okay, I think I know what it is. So it is sort of like you are creating your space. You have a term that you're trying to define, and you are the definer of that word. So it would grab me, that's for sure.
I think sparkling spirit is perfect.
Yeah.
I think sparkling spirit cocktail is limiting.
Sparkling cocktail. That's what I'd say.
I don't think cocktail is a good word.
That was their whole,
I agree.
I
agree.
That was their whole thought process,
See, I'm
Eric and his team have spent like thousands of dollars on
trying to tell people what sparkling spirit is.
Yeah. But that's just like the way. So this goes back to the beginning of the conversation. Like the beginning of the conversation was like talking about craft beer in a can, and so it's just it's an education point that eventually people will catch up to.
Right. We hope so. Yeah.
We're like having our own focus group here.
But I think to me this stuff is super interesting. Not only just marketing in general, but talking out things and guessing how the public is going to react, and then you sort of come back. I don't know, man. To me, that's infinitely fascinating. So I apologize if everyone's bored to tears, but
almost like a conversation is just happening with that, and other people just happen to be listening to us right now, because I think this is a great, question to ask. Like, how do you, right now in the space that's existing with low ABV, sparkling-esque cocktails, how's that going to play out?
Well, look, anybody listening, you can email your advice to Eric at, I don't know, man, whatever. It's super fascinating, and I think that's really cool that that you have created something in the space that is different enough to warrant a conversation like this. And I feel like in the drinks category, at least in the beer category, it's harder to do, and maybe the spirits category it's a little bit easier now. But it's a new thing. And it's tasting great. And like I said, I would definitely grab it off the shelf to examine what a sparkling spirit even means. I opened the rum and cola, and so this is. And had I remembered that you had sent me one of these, I would not have asked, "Hey, are you going to do a rum?" Because clearly you did. Tell me a little bit about your
caffeine free.
It's caffeine free. Okay, all right. Tell me a little bit about your rum. You said it was a cachaça.
It's cachaça style. So it's sugarcane and blackstrap molasses, and we use a South American yeast strain.
Okay.
And we ferment it. It's interesting. These yeast strains usually ferment around 98 to 89 degrees Fahrenheit. Pretty high. A lot of distillation yeast strains ferment very high, but they create a lot of estery. Profiles, a lot of banana, esters. Mm-hmm. And then by the time you distill it out, it comes out in that. But you get a lot of butterscotch in the flavor.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And then handcrafted cola. So you guys are making your own cola in-house.
Yep.
Nice. I love it. How are these sparkling spirits? See? How are they being received? Like you like I said, you've created this thing. It's definitely a focused a product. How are they being received in the market? Do people like them?
Yeah, I think, for us, our biggest challenge is, getting people's lips to the product.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's something we missed out in 2020. And, we're just like ready to get like people's lips on these products. And, it's not so much like the innovation, just like letting people know what else is out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a little bit of both, honestly. I mean, Okay. I get it. I see.
There's some training. There's some tasting going on here. I get it.
Yeah, it's very good. I like it, man. It's a unique rum and cola. Because of that, I think that cachaça focus, it's entirely unique, and I think it's very good. And again, under 5%. What was the point, or the reasoning for you internally behind making it a lower thing? Was that just to separate it from a cocktail, truly, or something different?
Yeah, it's just the drinkability. We approached it like someone can have like a couple in a sitting with a couple of friends, and feel like they're a part of the crew, or people that want to bring like a cocktail to a party but don't want to bring the whole bar, like they have an avenue, and that's for me that was a part of it.
I love it. I'm going to stop right now, but I just want to say I think that's very good. I think that's responsible, number one. But number two, I would split this rum and cola. It's a branding thing. Rum and Coke.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I would get 2 glasses, fill them both with ice, and share this can with somebody else.
I'll be over in a half an hour.
I'll cap it. But you know what I mean? Not because
I would agree with that.
Yeah, not for any reason, but just because it's like it's a lot. It's a lot. I don't really drink a whole lot of soda, so for me it's a lot of soda. But also, it's a lot of the same flavor. And for a cocktail kind of aspect thing, I think that's very enjoyable. So like you said, I would bring this to a party and I would share it. And you can have a few, you can knock a few of these back over a couple hours and then still be okay. And I don't know. I really appreciate that. I think these are great. These are very good, man.
What JP is saying is enjoying the beverages.
Yes, that's true. Okay, so we have one more spirit to try, which is the agave spirit, the Blaze.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, so I'm going to drink this whole bottle.
Yeah, blazing.
Let's do it.
In
Let's
one
watch
sitting.
It. Drunk of the week. I'm
going to blaze it up and hopefully vomit, or else I'm going to go to the hospital. Yeah.
How do you like? What I like to ask people is, how do you like to blaze?
I want to get into your marijuana business too. It's just we have so much to get through. So
we have to talk about that.
I'm going to take a break. I'm going to make a drink. I'm going to come back. We're gonna wrap up. We're gonna talk a little bit about the Blaze. We're gonna talk a little bit about your marijuana business. I just said that because it sounds cool.
You said it like you're like from 1955.
Yeah.
Your marijuana business.
Your jazz cabbage business. And
you have.
And then we're gonna get out of here. So hang on, everybody.
Weed.
It's the session. We'll be right back.
You're tuned into The Session.
Because life's too short to listen to crappy radio.
Hey, thanks for hanging around, everybody. We're about to wrap things up here on The Session, but I want to talk about Blaze, which is your agave spirit, Eric, and it's not tequila because it's fermented in Cincinnati.
That's correct.
Yeah. It's one of those regional
style.
Yeah, that's right. But you said earlier that you get the agave from Jalisco, from in Mexico, and then you bring it
Correct.
up. All right. Well, that's cool, man. Is there no such thing as like locally grown agave, or is that not a thing?
I mean, like maybe it's grown locally, like in small pods or something, but not like on a major agricultural, thing. But, when I was young and fantasized, I thought it'd be cool, like Southern Utah have like a, agave plant, kind of thing going with my salsa factory. But
that's what I was just thinking.
That's what I was thinking. But I was younger then, you know.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. Like, there's enough of you guys. There's enough distilleries out there in the U.S. that would probably buy U.S. grown agave just because, right? It's a thing.
Yeah, but it really is a thing, and it's agricultural, and to take a lot behind that, and you know, so like the agave we source is from the Jalisco region. You know, there really is a terroir, if you will, you know, with the agave plants.
Okay, that's really good. I'm not.
So it's helpful.
I'm not a tequila guy, but there is that. I don't even know how to describe it because this is probably why I'm not a tequila guy. So this is clear. It's unaged. It's not oaked, I guess, is really the better way to describe that. It tastes great. It's flavorful. It's not just what you think of as tequila as like, oh, that's just gonna burn and make me throw up. There is like a spirit character that's still hanging around in your mouth. So you're definitely getting the sense that this is a craft, small batch, you know, which I know are two like very wide target marketing terms. But it tastes very good. It tastes very good, man.
Eric, how do you describe it? I mean, what do you think of this? I mean, how would you phrase it?
The tequila? It's very smooth.
No, the dinner you had tonight. No, yeah, the tequila.
The agave spirit, you guys. It's not tequila.
Oh yeah, exactly. So first of all, yeah, like it can't be called tequila because it's not made in Mexico, you know. But we do source all the raw materials from the Jalisco region, and you know we have a very clean fermentation. You know, what's interesting in the fermentation of agave is it actually the byproduct of fermentation is something that'll actually inhibit yeast growth, and so it's very hard to get like the agave to attenuate and ferment 100% out. So, you know, in traditional like Jalisco region agave fermentation, you have a lot of wild yeast and bacteria that'll actually ferment it out. You know, fortunately for us, we can actually source some of those, you know, wild yeast and whatnot, but it's a very interesting part of the actual fermentation of the agave plant.
It smells great.
You're fermenting this, and then you're just keeping it stainless. There's no wood touching this at all. Didn't
exactly
touch wood.
For us, it's all stainless steel fermentation. You know, the other you know, distilleries down in Mexico, it's much wood, and a lot of the natural, you know, yeast and bacteria like live in that wood and actually like help with the fermentation of agave.
Huh. Okay. So yeah, I mean it's a terroir in the sense of a flavor, but it's also everybody's jumping in to actually help ferment the thing. That's cool.
Well, I think it's one thing's the fermentation, but it's also like where it's grown.
Yeah. Sure.
You know, because you have like it's all high desert, so you have like high desert regions that hit more like a wind shear, like sunlight. You have other ones that like are lower, maybe more shadow. All those plants like, you know, represent like the terroir of the region. So, you know, it all carries over into distillate, and you know that's part of like when we talked about like beer and spirits and what I'm doing. It's like, you know, it's like in the next realm of like learning about flavor and what it's fermentation and all that, you know.
Yeah. Well, it makes a good drink, I'll tell you that. I pulled out my trusty Smuggler's Cove book. We had Martin Kate, the author of this, who was on our Heads and Tails program a couple years ago. And if anybody has the book, it's on page 137. I made the Ernesto, which is 2 ounces of Ting grapefruit soda, an ounce of lime juice, honey syrup, apricot liqueur, tequila blanco. So I substitute that, obviously, for the blaze. And then I did a dash of Pernod because I don't have the Herb Saint Angostura, whatever. Anyway, Smuggler's Cove, great book. Great cocktail. The blaze comes through, too, man. I feel like sometimes when people have tequila in drinks, it's especially Blanco, it's sort of, I think, to not taste anything. It's like not vodka, but, you know, whatever. But, and I don't know if I have that right or not, but that's my opinion on it. But this, I get some of that flavor drinking it side by side. I get some of the flavor coming through, especially after, you know, overneath. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm getting drunk.
It's okay, you're fine. Keep going.
Over all of the other flavors in the cocktail. It makes a good cocktail. All right, Eric, wrapping up, I did want to get to a couple things you're doing. Mainly you're a pot dealer now. Is that what's going on? That's what I read somewhere.
Oh my God. Whoa.
Yeah. You got two. You got 2 for $5.
Yeah.
No, you're tell me a little bit about Manzanita Naturals, please.
Sure. Yeah. We're all in beverage, as we are. And, I ran into a couple of people a few years ago and they're like, someone with your expertise could really help us out a lot. And that's kind of where it all began. I never thought that I would be doing what I was doing then now, but,
yeah,
whatever. It's all about, deliver, for me, it's like with product, it's about delivering like what people want in every product,
It's about delivering an experience, actually, whether it's the liquid or the flavor, it's all encompassing. So,
but how do you navigate those waters of public opinion is so fickle. I think when you're trying to deliver something that everybody wants, you can't really. That's hard to do, man. How do you? I don't know. How do you find your rudder through that?
I mean, as far as what people want to drink, or
what you produce, right? Because you go, okay, well, I want people to like this, but not everybody's going to like it. So do you sort of? I guess you have to focus on what you enjoy, also, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's about what we all want, right?
Yeah.
It's about like putting our hair back a little bit, chilling out.
Okay.
I can't put that in a bottle, I can just try to like make that experience, It's like, when let's go back to Oscar Blues,
Okay.
When I used to look at can stacks of Dale's Pale Ale, like how many people like had their biggest life experience off that beer, or like, how many people named their kid off that, or how many people, had this crazy life experience, man. That's what we do. We work in fire.
Okay.
We create the fire, and just to understand that, like, that's where we are in life. And like, like I said, like working at Dale's, looking at all those can stacks, how much life did you create or whatever off of that?
I feel like that's your anthropology side coming out too, where you're looking at the thing that's in the present and you're looking to the future as to what this holds, so people can then reflect upon it in the past, right? It's this whole like thing. It's very synergistic, sort of, I don't know, lifestyle that you lead, where you're focused on experiences that people are having based on what you're doing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's more like Eric. I like the fact we're talking about him. He's in the room right now.
I hung up on him.
Is that I think he's. I always thought that Eric is curious. I mean, look. I mean, he started. Karrikin. That was obviously a passion that brought him back to Cincinnati. It seems like every venture you've taken on has been more of a curiosity experiment in a lot of ways, and so. When the Manzanita Natural folks approached you about, hey, we want to make really great liquid cannabis beverages and put them in a bottle or a can, and you were the guy to do it, because you were like, oh, how can we do that? How can we make that work? Because there's inherent challenges with like, how do you get something like that soluble in solution? How do you make it work in a can? I know that's been a challenge, and so I think it's actually part of your like makeup, your DNA, is that. You're like, just like, whoa, that's cool. Let's see how that works.
Yeah,
I mean, the marketing aspect is there too, but it's also like, that's a messaging thing. The liquid's always there. The quality of the liquid is there. And so it's like, whoever picks up the can, they're going to pick it up and enjoy it. Like the beers and the sparkling spirits that we've had. I think they're going to get it once they have it. It's getting people to open up that first Dale's Pale Ale.
Right.
In some ways.
So for Manzanita Naturals, are you involved on the weed side? Because basically they're infused THC and CBD liquids. So are you focusing on how those blend in flavor wise with the liquids, or what's your role in that?
Yeah, definitely like on the consultation role, and then early on a few years ago. It was about like flavor development. How do you put like suspend oil essentially into liquid, and make it a homogenized product. So
very cool.
Again, like it's about the consumer experience.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, look, if you guys are hanging out there and you see one of these on the shelf, it's the Fizz, is the I guess the seltzer, for lack of a better term. There's actually a lot of things on it. The Quick Ease, which is more of an energy sort of a thing, right? You have Quick Ease and Quick Z's if you want to come down.
Z's, yeah.
I like the fact that JP, you're like, I don't know what this.
I don't know what's going on.
I just read
man.
about marijuana last week.
Yeah, it's still a thing, right?
Yeah, like
Well, I meant that was
giving you a hard time.
That was one of the times where internally I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's Quick Z's with Kush Berry Indica, 100 milligrams of THC.
Kush Berry, yeah, Kush.
Indica,
Kush Berry, 100 million.
Damn, dude.
So
I also have blurry vision.
Well, that's we're kind of getting to like defining the category, but like with Manzanita, we have a bunch of different products that have either sugar added, so they're more on the soft drink line. We have ones that are no sugar added, and then the ones you're talking about, the Quickies and the Quick Z's, those are 100 milligram. Each capsule is a 5 milligram capsule, and you can dose that into a mocktail mule or whatever. This is what the controversy is in the beer industry is, or like liquor. How many people are going to start dosing their cocktails with weed and not liquor moving off it?
Yeah. I mean, yes, but also it's different. It's a different high, for lack of a better term, to be buzzed on alcohol and then, to smoke like a CBD joint or whatever. Like they're different animals. I don't know. I'm honestly surprised at how big the THC infused drinks industry has become. I never thought it would be this big because of that same thing. I'm like, well, if you want to get high, you're just going to smoke pot. But you can't really do that everywhere. And then this is where the THC and CBD drinks industry has been born, right? And then, but even then, I think after it's such a great idea, and people are doing such a good job at it, clearly, that people are demanding it. So it's an entirely new industry that I just never saw coming. But then again, like I said, I don't really know a whole lot. So I think it's really cool, man.
People want to be social.
Right.
People want to be social, right? They want to hang out. They want to be like, if they're holding a can of whatever 12 ounce, they want to be viewed as like everybody else.
Yeah. Well, find out more about it, everybody. Go to manzanitanaturals.com. And if it's in your area, check it out. And, raise a glass to Eric there for helping you out with your...
Raise a glass.
With your thing, man. Clink a bottle. I don't know, man. Do whatever we do. Whatever we do in the drinks industry, Sully.
Well, we do a lot here. I mean, I think what we're noticing is that it's very fluid, and that
I hate you.
It's going to come at you in different ways. I mean, I think we're already seeing that right now with hard seltzers. We're seeing that with cannabis, beverages, and also canned sparkling spirit cocktails. It's a brave new world, and I think that Eric is definitely he's on the forefront. He's an experimenter, and we're all the better for it, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I love it. Eric, if you ever come out this way, man, I'd love to have you in our actual real studio, because I think there could be a really good conversation. We have a lot of stuff we haven't even touched on, but I'm afraid we have to wrap things up right now. You guys go to Karrikinspirits.com. That's Karrikin spirits.com. Learn more about the Karrikin Spirits and the beers and all that kind of stuff. If you're ever in Cincinnati, check them out. Eric, thanks again, man. I really appreciate you being here and sending all the beers. Everything was great. I had a really great time, man.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate the time.
And they do hand sanitizer, too. By the way, so this was in the package. This is in the package.
I didn't get that.
No, it's only one thing. It's in the package, and I saw it, and I didn't think sanitizer because I didn't read it because, it was just like whatever. I thought it was instantly like a spray bitters.
Okay.
Because I saw the bottle and I was like, oh, cocktails. Okay, canned cocktails. This has got to be a spray bitters. And I almost didn't look at it and just assumed. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make a cocktail. I'm going to use this and the blaze. I'm glad I read it. Because that would have been fun to drink.
I would have liked to watch that.
Yeah. All right. Eric, thanks again, man. Sully, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening on the old Facebook Live. I appreciate it. If you want more cool beer radio, of course, go to thebrewingnetwork.com. We have tons of shows happening all the time. If you are listening live right now, we are going to be doing a live Dr. Homebrew on Wednesday night. We're going to do 2 shows. Brian and myself, of course, are going to be drinking homebrews and talk about the new styles that the BA just announced. So it's going to be a fun time over there. Check that out very much. Actually, I had a thing I was supposed to mention. Shit. Okay, here we go. There is a new Pro-Am, a new homebrew competition that I'm supposed to talk about. It's called the Rising Star Pro-Am Homebrew Competition. It's a BJCP sanctioned event hosted by Device Brewing in Sacramento. And you can go to devicebrewing.com/brewcomp. Entries are $8, and the competition is limited to the first 150 entries. So get in now. If you guys are itching to sort of get back to normalcy as far as entering homebrew competitions, check that out. devicebrewing.com/brewcomp. The window is from April 23rd to May 8th, 2021, and judging will take place on the 22nd. So check that out. devicebrewing.com/brewcomp. Get your homebrews in there to the Rising Star Pro-Am Homebrew Competition. All right, we are out of here. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you again, Eric. Go to Karrikinspirits.com. Thank you to Sully. Bye, guys.
Yes. Peace out.
JP's an asshole. Justin's a nice guy and